Hello everyone! This week we are not painting a landscape. As you can see, we are painting a pansy flower. Sometimes I paint flowers too. Not my strong suit, but I like to explore flowers and I love the vibrant colors from time to time. But this is a drawing that I did of the pansy flower just to kind of break it up into some basic shapes to help us visualize it before we paint it. I'm going to draw it for you. So basically, you start out with a semi-heart shape large petal first. And then we're going to draw a petal on the left side, and we're going to end that petal sort of on the side of the first petal, and then we're going to draw another one on the right side. And then in the back of it, we're going to draw a slightly bigger petal that's tucked back there, and then another one tucked all the way to the back. And then the most distinguishing feature of the pansy would be these dark, almost black patterns in the middle. And they're usually just on maybe 3 of the petals. So that's these are sort of how they look, just kind of drawn in roughly there just to give us an idea of where we're going to put our dark colors. And that's it. Very simple. Don't overthink it. I'm sure that there are a lot more details that we are, glossing over, and that's okay. That's not the point. We're not trying to paint realistic. So we're going to paint a purple one just like this one that I've painted. You can see on the left side. I kind of played around with some colors and styles, but I've decided to show you how to paint this purple one. So I'm mixing up a purple color here, any purple that you would like to use. And I see you want this mixture to be maybe 80 to 90% pigments. You don't want too much water, you don't want it watery. And the reason why you don't want it watery is because we're going to use the wet on wet technique to paint our purple petals. So that means we're going to lay down water first, and then we're going to add the colors, the pigments. So you don't want your mixture, your colors, to have too much water because that would just be really washed out. If you were painting wet on dry, that's a different story. You might want a little bit more water in your mixture, but that's not what we're doing. I'm also going to mix up a darker color. I'm going to use the same purple, and I'm adding a version of Payne's gray, and then also a little bit of black just to make my dark purple, or the dark part in the middle of the pansy. You can use black if you would like. I like to mix a little bit of other colors in my dark color just for interest and variety, so that it's not a flat black, which can be dull sometimes. And if you add a touch of the purple in your dark color, I feel like that would be a bit more cohesive and kind of tie the two colors together. So this is kind of what your colors should look like. So make sure you have enough before you start painting. Alright, so let's get started with our first petal. I'm using a soft round brush, and I'm using, this one is an Uku, I believe a 2, but it feels more like a 6 or even an 8 in others brands of round brush, but essentially a large one. And I'm going to use just clean water to paint in my first petal, the heart-shaped one. You don't want a puddle, because if you have a puddle and when you add your colors to that and it's a puddle, it's just gonna sit on top of that puddle and it's not gonna blend or bleed or go anywhere. So that's frustrating. So you don't want a puddle, and I showed you there sort of like a flat wet wash. And I'm gonna drop in, so I switched over to another round brush, a smaller one for better control with a good tip. I don't want a large brush right now because a large brush would carry a lot of water and a lot of pigments in it, and I don't want that to be dropped into my wet petal right now. So I'm using a smaller round brush and I'm dropping in my purple and kind of concentrating it sort of at the top part of the hump of the heart-shaped petal, and then gently lining it just a little bit for a touch of colors here and there. This part you can be, pretty creative with, but you want to make sure you leave some white space, because pansies have, areas of white between or within the petals. So I'm using my purple flower up there up top as my reference, so I'm gonna paint that one, but you can feel free to not do a white area if you prefer that. That's okay too. So here I am picking up my first round brush, the bigger one, and it's clean. I'm picking up just water and I'm painting the left side petal, and again showing you that we don't want a puddle of water. It's a flat wet wash. And then going in with my other round brush, I'm dropping in the purple. I want to drop in my purple sort of at the outer edge of my petals because I want to keep the inner part of my pansy white. So just concentrating it at the outer edge. And I'm using the tip of my round brush to kind of shape it a little bit too and kind of bring the colors kind of where I want it. You can even rinse your brush and pick up a little bit of clean water and kind of blend it out, so that you have a soft edge to where your color meets the white area. Dropping in a little bit more pigments there in that little area. You don't have to do that. I think it just kind of adds interest. And then we're gonna go ahead and do the right-sided petal just like that. I really like doing flowers wet on wet because, well, first of all, I think that it creates a softer look when the colors blend together. And also, when you start painting your petal with just clean water, it is so much less intimidating. If you did not paint the correct shape, for example, or the right size, that's okay. You can let that dry. It's just water, So it's much less scary than going in immediately with colors. And once you are happy with your water-shaped petal, then you can drop in colors and you can just watch it bleed, which is so much fun. So this is why I've chosen to show you the wet on wet techniques for these flowers. It's just, like I said, painting with clean water first it's just easier and less intimidating. It's just water and it's clean. So I hope that you are having fun and you are feeling brave. All right, so we are moving on to that big petal in the back. So it's kind of tucked behind the left-sided petal a little bit, so you're only gonna see, so you're not gonna see some parts of it, and that's okay. But it still curves all the way to the right and meets at the middle. So there it is, my clean water, and I'm happy with that shape. And then I'm going to drop in colors. Now this back petal is overall a little lighter than the rest of the pansy petals, at least these two back petals. So I dropped in a little bit of color. I rinsed my brush, and then I use a mostly clean brush to blend it out for a relatively even wash compared to the other 3 petals that we've already painted. Same technique for that little petal tucked all the way in the back. Dropping in a light value of that purple. And this smallest petal in the bag is tucked behind the one that we just painted. It's tucked behind that just a little bit. So to show that separation, we want a darker value kind of right at the edge of the smallest petal in the bag where it meets its friend there on the left. So you can kind of see where I dropped in a little bit more colors along that edge just to show that separation. And then you want to keep the rest of that smallest petal light because overall it is a lighter value compared to the first 3 petals that we painted. So using the tip of my round brush just to continue to shape my petals. So it may not look like a pansy yet, but stick with it. Once we put in the middle part, that's pretty distinguishing for a pansy. You and your viewers will be able to tell it's a pansy flower, so keep going. And then so we're gonna paint the yellow part in the middle there. So I've mixed up a relatively thick orangey or like a warm yellow, and we're just gonna drop it there. This is just on the first petal that we painted, the heart-shaped one. And then we're gonna let this dry completely. All right, so my flower is 100% dry. We are going to use our smaller round brush with a good point and pick up some of the thick, darker purple mixture that we made at the beginning. I'm gonna go ahead and paint in the dark patterns on my left-sided petal there. I try to paint from left to right because I'm right-handed, and if I move from left to right, I am not at risk of placing my hand over a part that I've already painted if I were to move from right to left. I hope that makes sense. But the key to painting these black and darker patterns is to make sure you take your time, but also follow the curvature of your petal as well. You don't want it to be, sticking straight out in a different direction. You want to kind of follow the shape of the petal. And this is just a bunch of sort of flickers of your brush or C-shape shapes using the tip of your brush. Take your time with this. You can bring it out as far as you would like or make it as small as you would like too. So you can see here on the left-sided page how the dark part of my pansy is pretty big. And then, so you can make it that big if you want to do that. Or you can keep it really small and subtle because those exist too in nature, and that's okay. So make this yours. And so yeah, take your time with this part. And make sure that you preserve some of the white space if you've chosen to have white space in your petal. All right, so we are moving on to the last part here. We are gonna work on the details. If you like the way your pansy looks and you don't want to add the details, that's okay. You don't have to. I think it looks great just like this, but I'm gonna add a little bit of details here, and what I'm gonna do is add a little bit more water in my purple color here for a light value of this purple. And this is how light it should be. And I'm also going to use my smaller round brush with a good tip to it because my details are small. And so I'm just gonna go in and put in these C-shaped light color folds, I guess. Putting in the details to kind of portray the folds and lines within the petals. You want to keep this to minimal. You don't want to overdo it, and you don't want to make it too dark either. You want it to be very light value of the purple. If your petals are already pretty dark, you don't have to do these details. It might be a little hard to do that if your petals are dark. But if you really want to, then I guess you can mix up an even darker color of purple and almost black to draw in your details if you would like to do that. So I'm just using these last few steps just to see what's missing and try to not overdo it at the same time, which can be hard. So I think I'm happy with that. So this is what we have. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you joined in with me. I hope you painted or give it a try. Feel free to leave me a comment if you have any questions. Yeah, I think that this adds a nice touch of brightness as the summer wraps up here for us. And have a good rest of your week, guys. See you next week. Bye.